Hi, everyone. This is Janet Caleri. Hello. I am the founder of Visible Transitions, a photographic process I developed to help people have joy and ease and stay in their personal power, unaltered by circumstances, unaltered by external circumstances. And I'm just checking to see if you can hear me. Okay, well, I want to talk about masks and self-governance. I'm not sure if my comments already showed up, but in the title of this video, I'm here today to talk about masks as self-governance. I'm here to share with you my evolutionary visible transition health update and to invite you to my debut interview and being an expert speaker at the Fresh Inspiration show. And okay, great. Thank you, Alexis, so much. I didn't want to wear these things, but anyway, thanks, Alexis. Yeah, so it's good to see you. Come join me in this conversation. We're in the middle of CoronApocalypse, and the apocalypse is about the unveiling of the truth, the veil being lifted, and the truth being seen. And even though it might seem ugly and uncomfortable, I also see the gift and blessing of all these truths being shown to us now. And because we can rewrite the script of our lives, and this is the time to do it, all of us. And so that takes me to this self-governance topic. I'm hearing and seeing lots of comments and verbiage around feeling controlled by the government and feeling like our freedom is being taken away. And I totally relate to that feeling. And this is the time for us to self-govern, to be in our power, to the personal power, not control power. This is the time for us to self-govern and create the life that we say is most important to us for the benefit of all of us. And I want to talk to self-governing, the term, which means independent, exercising control over one's own affairs, self-regulation, a level, an ownership mindset, being sovereign and autonomous. And why are these important right now? Well, I'm seeing and hearing a lot of people feeling like victims or thinking that they're being victimized by the government. And I'm not saying that I agree with the government or the governors or how this corona apocalypse is going down. I'm not saying I agree with it at all. I'm here to hopefully inspire you and all of us into a mindset of ownership and self-governing. Okay, so first I want to read you something. And I wrote this paper in April of 2011, and it's called Accountability is Freedom. Thank you, Lincoln. It's called Accountability is Freedom. Oh, by the way, I think you can create a watch, like invite your people to watch this. So feel free to do that. I've been incapacitated for about 6.5 months now, and I'm just starting to get out into the game. And I think a lot of things have changed online, and whatever you can do to share this message. If you're inspired, please, by all means, do that. Self-governing. So I'll start with the sunglasses. I have a traumatic brain injury, and it has resulted in sensitivity to light and screens. So I got really playful, and I bought a whole bunch and was gifted a whole bunch of sunglasses to make light of something that has been very uncomfortable. And so that's what I mean by self-governing and ownership, is really self-regulating my experience, you self-regulating your experience. No one can make you feel a certain way. You feel the way you do, and we're all affected to a degree by circumstances. The level of being affected, the experience of being affected comes from in here. Again, my invitation is about freedom. So this paper is called Accountability is Freedom. And I did some research on John Locke, who was an English philosopher in Europe. He was revered as the king's scholar, physician, and Enlightenment theorist. He was also known as the intellectual father of America, and created this foundation, the John Locke Foundation in North Carolina. And the foundation is dedicated to truth, freedom, and responsibility of transforming our government. And he had this notion that all of us are in the perfect state of freedom. I love that we are all in the perfect state of freedom. He was the father of liberalism and an advocate for human rights. And this is what I wrote. I do believe he had 20/20 vision, because his 21st century views remain intact. And we're in the year of 2020. And I remember when I was 25, I just returned from traveling around the world and up with people, up with people. You meet them wherever you go. And I remember reading about 2020. That was back in 1992. And I knew that 2020 was going to be really interesting. It was going to be a pivotal moment in history, and I wasn't sure what it was about, but I knew it. Okay, so John Locke did too. All right. John Locke goes on to say, why would people give up their freedom? In his treatise named Of the Ends of Political Society and Government, I'm going to repeat that. His treatise was named Of the Ends of Political Society and Government. He asked, why will he part with this freedom? Why will he give up his empire and subject himself to the domination and control of another power? These are excellent questions, John Locke. All right, so he's speaking of the government, and this is what I know from my research, is that the government was formed to support self-governance. The government was formed to support our self-governance so that all of us could be free. And we see how the government has turned out. Okay, so he asks, why will he part with this freedom? Why will he give up his empire and subject himself to the domination and control of another power? He continues with, yet the enjoyment of being absolute lord of his own person is very uncertain. Okay, so self-governance, taking ownership and accountability for one's life, there is a level of uncertainty with that. And constantly exposed to the invasion of others. So again, yet the enjoyment of being absolute lord of his own person is very uncertain and constantly exposed to the invasion of others. And I believe, and of course, you don't have to believe a word I say, and I suggest that you don't until you go practice, experiment on your own, that many of Americans are abdicating, they're abdicating their power to the government in the fear of the uncertainty of self-governance. His conclusion, with which I disagree slightly, is the great and chief end, therefore, of men's uniting in commonwealths and putting themselves under government is the preservation of their property. Their property, like their homes, maybe horses back then, farms and animals, thinking that the government will preserve what we own. Perhaps this treatise, as well as of tyranny, of property, and the state of nature, were manipulations. It's as if he was urging us to be accountable for ourselves, yet buys into his own fears of poverty and inner freedom. The buck stops here. I believe it wasn't fear of losing property that people chose government over sovereignty, but the fear of responsibility for their innate freedom. Fear of responsibility for innate freedom. That right there is what I'm speaking to. So who is abdicating? Are you abdicating your power and your innate freedom over to the government? That's my question. And if you are, what is your intention in doing that? And are you feeling victimized while doing that? So I'm reading from my paper, Accountability is Freedom. It's regarding John Locke's treatise of the ends of political society and government. And it has been said that people give up sovereignty to a government in order to maintain social order, yet they fear uncertainty, exposure, and invasion. Are you hearing these words? This is unbelievable. It has been said that people give up sovereignty to a government in order to maintain social order, yet they fear uncertainty, exposure, and invasion. And as far as masks go, and I forgot my mask, which I bought a bunch of masks from Jennifer Mizuko, devotional artist. She made some really cool masks. And here's my take on masks. There is so much controversy from different medical professionals. We have medical professionals who say masks are useless in regards to COVID-19 virus. We have medical professionals who say that masks do help with protecting oneself and others. Now, given we're in this duality, which is one of my favorite topics, we're in this duality. How about self-governing? There is a lot of uncertainty. We really don't know the efficacy of face coverings or masks based on medical advice, papers, research, all the information that you're seeing out there. My invitation is to consider self-governance in that when you're driving your car by yourself, you don't need to be wearing a mask unless you're an Uber driver or a taxi driver or maybe delivering foods. I'm not seeing or reading a lot right now, so I don't know the facts about that specifically. In general, on a personal level, when you're driving your car by yourself, you don't need to wear your mask. When you're driving in a car with a person you live with, there's no need to wear a mask. If you're driving with someone you swap bodily fluids with, you don't need to wear a mask. When I go out walking every day in nature, I carry my mask in my hand. And so long as no one is around in my vicinity, I am mask free. I am breathing in nature. When I see or hear other people coming upon me, I put on my mask. Number one, out of respect for myself and you. Whose community is it? Speaking of self-governing and ownership, whose community is it? It's my community. Whose CoronApocalypse is it? It's my CoronApocalypse. Whose pandemic is it? It's my pandemic. Whose health is it? It's my health. It's my community's health. This is the mindset that works right now, given the controversy, conflict, and uncertainty of the actual truth of the virus and how it spreads and the efficacy of masks. Ask yourself these questions. Whose health is it? Whose housemate is it? Whose home is it? Whose community is it? Whose pandemic is it? And keep saying mine, and you'll start to feel a sense of freedom. And you'll start to make choices from a sovereign, powerful place rather than feeling victimized by the government. And again, I am not abdicating. I am not saying that I agree with how the government is running this pandemic, nor am I agreeing with medicine. Okay. All I can do, and by the way, in the middle of a health crisis myself, all I can do is rely on my intuition, my gut instinct, my knowledge. I was a medical professional for many, many years. I can rely on my knowledge. I can rely on some of my science friends to relay some information to me. I rely on common sense. I rely on respect for myself and my people. So I'm inviting others to consider that. So what else do I want to say about this paper? I'll just write my conclusion here right now. In conclusion, perhaps we'd be further ahead in world consciousness if Locke had pushed the accountability factor rather than focus on physical property being the reason for people wanting to be governed. Do you want to be governed because you think that your property will be safe? I'm curious. I wrote, perhaps Locke was self-serving, knowing that successful leadership and accountability would negatively alter his wealth and status. Maybe now, the year of 2011, and I'll insert 2012, is our time, the time to proclaim our natural state of freedom. It is the time to proclaim our natural state of freedom. All right, so self-governance, the accountability, the ownership, the sovereignty, the self-regulation. Wear a face covering because you take this whole CoronApocalypse on as your own. Don't wear it because the government tells you to, otherwise you feel victimized. I'm not asking you to go against policy or the mandates. This is all mindset. This is a mindset I'm inviting you to. Wear a mask based on your common sense, your innate knowing, your fellow human beings. until we really get to the truth of this virus, if we ever do. We are seeing the truth of the very immature systems of the government and medicine, education, and the justice system. And by the way, I'm going to say this, just be very blunt. If you think wearing a mask is taking away your freedom and you can't breathe, think about the Black people all these years, 400 plus years, Black Lives Matter. Think about how they have felt over 400 plus years. I imagine, this is what I imagine, that they have felt like they've had these masks on for 400 plus years. Okay, so I hope you feel inspired, at least curious. Curious. I think my question marks are probably backwards though with this camera flip. So I hope you feel inspired and or curious to ponder what I've said and how accountability, self-governance, self-regulation, all the same thing, leads to freedom. And right now, our nervous systems need to feel as free and easeful and joyful as possible in order to make it through the day, in order to move forward, in order for us to rewrite and write the story of our lives, in order to actually enjoy your life right now, unaltered by the circumstances. Okay. And now I want to give you an evolutionary visible transitions health update. So most of you know, back in January, through a series of events, I went unconscious twice, and that resulted in a couple of concussions and traumatic brain injury. And I have been working with Dr. Amy Schaus. Shout out to Dr. Schaus, doctor in Chinese medicine, acupuncture, integrative medicine, who has helped me recover in so many ways. I'm not fully recovered, but between her and my community, praise, 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 praise. All your thank yous are coming. I have a very special thank you for all of you. And to visible transitions, photographic process using curiosity and a smartphone camera. I am where I am today. So I am proud to say that I am no longer pre-diabetic. That is huge. Pre-diabetic is pretty much being a diabetic type 2. And I believe I've been pre-diabetic probably since my adrenal illness back that started 2009. So at least for 10 years. I'm no longer pre-diabetic. All my other numbers look great. My cholesterol, my liver, everything looks great. Inflammation markers way down, way, way down. And my parasite is gone. And that has been, we think, the primary cause of all of this catastrophic health stuff was a parasite, and it was blastocystis, which is the most difficult parasite to eradicate. And I did it through a 12-week slow kill botanical regimen that overseen by Dr. Amy Schaus, and I am parasite free. I want to say something about parasites and addiction. So for a long time, I was very addicted to sugar in different ways, like wine or cheese, like dairy. Get my decaf lattes every day. Milk has sugar in it. And sometimes treats. And I always said to myself, I feel like I'm possessed. There are some times where I questioned whether I was like if I was addicted to wine. And I knew I wasn't, but I did question it. Because sometimes it was hard to stop drinking the wine. And I've never been into like getting drunk, even like I've never been into caffeine highs. It's not my thing. Um, but it's more of the flavor and the sugar and the culture, the Italian culture, sharing a glass of wine. And there were moments when I questioned if I was addicted, and I had this inner knowing that I was not, and that I was possessed. Like, I'm using that word possessed, but something inside me was taking over. It was literally removing my self regulation. And so I believe it was the parasite. And I can tell you that, I mean, I have been deprived of many things in 6.5 months. Many things. And I just had my first decaf latte 3 days ago since the beginning of January, and it was so good. It was really lovely, and that's it. I don't crave it. I haven't craved it since I've been eradicating the parasite. I have no craving. I don't need it every day. When I think about enjoying a glass of wine, I'm like, meh. And I really do believe in this sustainable pleasure with food and drink and life, all kinds of activities, juicy experiences, sustainable pleasure. And I'm so delighted that that addictive feeling inside of me is it's gone. It has dissolved. My life is forever changed, and I really feel badass. um, so let's see. No parasite, no more prediabetes. My bad cholesterol runs rampant in my family. Cholesterol is looking great. My numbers are looking great. I have released 45 pounds. Some of it was inflammation. Some of it was menopause fat. I'm back down to a really healthy, comfortable weight and size. I just fit into my size 6 jeans again. And I want to talk to you about my reality. So my reality is that I have a traumatic brain injury, and the healing time of that is unknown. Concussions, injuries have a lot of mystery to them. I'm just looking at the clock. I actually have a 2 p.m. appointment with my administrative assistant. um, okay, so the way that I operate now, and I appreciate you being patient with me, is my recall it kind of sucks. So I can remember long term. Short term is questionable. Recalling words, I can words can fail me often. I can really get lost on a simple word, like let's see, a simple word is like a salt and pepper shaker or something. I have a salt and pepper shaker here. Um, Connecting dots, connecting information and bringing it together so I can understand it and take the next step, like take the next action. that sucks. So me taking action is like slow as a turtle. Sometimes it takes me weeks to respond and take action to one simple thing. Um, yeah, I process really slowly, and if you speak slowly to me, then it's easier for me to digest what you're saying. I'm still limiting myself to like 2 or 3 activities per day, so that could look like this: my meeting with my administrative assistant, and then a phone call, or maybe a couple of session clients, and a personal phone call, or I have a lot of medical paperwork that I'm filling out. I still have a lot of medical paperwork I'm dealing with, so making medical health phone calls and doing paperwork, that would be like probably that would be enough for the whole day. um but I definitely get my walks in. I have skipped maybe 4 days out of I think I'm up to about 200 days now, maybe even more than 200 days incapacitated, but I didn't start walking till April. Um, or like if I'm talking to somebody and there's noise in the background, if I'm talking to you on the phone and you're multitasking or there's noise in the background, I I'm I just ask you to either call me back or stop what you're doing. And multitasking is just not a thing my brain will allow me to do. So when these things happen, like noise in the background, or that I attempt to connect dots or fix a problem, even like the other day, I attempted to fix a problem in MailChimp. So I know the program, but I've hired my assistant, Kristen, to do all my work for me, all that work for me. And there was one change that I needed to do over the weekend, and I know how to do it. However, when I went to do it, my brain wouldn't work, and my nervous system went into fight or flight. So this is what happens: is if I attempt to push just a little, and I'm a pusher, but not anymore. But if I attempt to push just a little, my nervous system will literally inflame. I'll go into fight or flight. And like the other day when I was trying to fix something in MailChimp, I ended up screaming my guts out. My nervous system just exploded. And the only way to release the trauma was to literally scream at the top of my lungs. So that's how I operate these days. It's a different life, and I am seeing clients, which is going really well. I do have a couple of openings. If you feel inspired and would like to uh, yourself experience that joy in the middle of upheaval and chaos, I can take you there. And I want to tell you that my joy level is it's really high in the midst of all this, and moving. I'm moving in a couple of weeks, and I can honestly tell you that my joy level is really high. That's that's um, the thread line. So of course I have moments where I don't feel joy, and the point is that I get back into my joy really quickly. And so if that is of interest to you, comment below or private message me. So I better go. I don't see many people here. I don't even know if anyone's hearing me or listening. If you're watching this video replay, please comment below or message me, ask me questions. I can help you get to the zero resistance state. whereby you can feel like you can actually enjoy all the crap that's going on. You can enjoy life being unaltered by circumstances like health crises and coronapocalypses and injustice. Okay, well, it's been nice to be with you. Thank you for listening and being with me, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Oh, stay curious.